Hello, audience. Welcome to Soul Symphony. I hope the information you find here helps you if you are on a healing journey. If you're not on a healing journey, that's okay. Please pass the information along to whoever might need it. My name is Z again. So today I'll go over a mother wound. Mother wound is I would say it's really a combination of different woundings that happen during childhood. It's not just one specific thing. It's more like the expression of different things that happen while it expressed in many different things. And the biggest thing that actually triggers those things is when a mother is not present to parent a child properly, right? When I say properly, I mean emotionally, physically, mentally, right? And when it comes to the basic needs, especially, the mother is not there to actually provide those. And she can be there physically. It doesn't have to be like a physical presence. It has to be presence in all those different domains. When it comes to emotional needs, when it comes to safety, basic needs, food, shelter, right? So all those are basic needs for a child. A child doesn't know that my mother does not have the money to buy me food. That's why I'm starving. Children don't know that, right? Children don't know my mother's too busy working 13, 14, 15 hours a day so she can actually provide for the household. That's why she's never here to actually soothe me when I'm crying. Children do not know that. Children just know that mom is not here for me, right? When I'm crying because something had happened to me, because I hurt my big toe, mom is not here, or because I feel a certain way, because my brother is bullying me, all right? Mom is not here to actually tell them to stop, right? Or somebody in the family is actually physically abusing them. Mom is not here to actually witness it and to help. So all they know is the person who's supposed to provide them all these different things as a parent. They're not present to do that, right? So it's not even being physically present. The person can be physically present. And if they have certain addictions, right, drug, alcohol, and all the other things that come with it, right, they will not be able to actually be there because they are so engulfed in their own needs that they are not providing the needs for that child. And therefore, children grow up feeling that even though mom is physically here, mom is not here for me. So therefore, I have to still be the one taking care of myself as a child, right? So, so mother wound happens differently. It actually expresses itself differently in men and women because a mother has a different role when it comes to a daughter and a son, right? The mother is mostly there when it comes to both children normally should have the common sense of being nurtured. That nurturing part should always be the biggest thing that a child actually receives from their mother. But still, when it comes to a mother wound, men are more likely to struggle with emotional needs when it comes to mother wound, where they they have emotional repression and anger that is expressed as adults, compared to women who have actually the identity of some identity issues. They cannot really identify themselves too much with other things, and they become more perfectionism. They try to actually they try to still control their lives so much more, so much better than what they had as they were children. So it's kind of switches into a safety mechanism where I'm safe if I can control. I know when I was a child, I couldn't actually control my life. I couldn't control what I have received from my mother because I was a child. Now that I'm an adult, I can control any and everything in my life. So I can never feel that lack that I had when I was a child. So it becomes that internalized perfectionism and issues with identity, right? And also it can become sometimes compulsive issues because the need for perfectionism or need for control can actually lead to compulsions, and compulsion can lead to addiction. So that's just the sad part of it. When I in my video of perfectionism, I did mention how OCD is something that usually that people who have perfectionism can actually develop because they want things to be certain way. They want them to be placed in a certain way. They want them to be neat in a certain way, in a certain place, in a certain time. So everything has to be really much scheduled, discipline. It's discipline to the extreme, pretty much, when it comes to the need for control and perfectionism. There's nothing wrong with having need to control things, but when it gets to that extreme where you need to know how every single outcome has to be controlled, then it becomes, and not only control, but it has to be control exactly the way you want it to be. And that becomes an issue. That can be unhealthy. So men, most of the time they can have emotional isolation, which means what? Which means they suffer with silence. In silence, and they do not really express their emotions. They internalize everything. They don't want to say nothing. Even if they're suffering, they don't want to really bring it up. They don't want to share their feelings. They have a hard time going to therapy. So therefore, that can turn into anxiety and depression, because eventually it's like a balloon. When you have a balloon, you keep blowing air in it. Eventually, there will not be any more space for the air to go in. And what will happen is that balloon will eventually pop, right? So it's the same thing. When all those feelings are internalized, eventually something has to give. And what gives usually is the mental health. And the mental health cracks. And externally, it shows as anxiety. Even if they do not express it, it's there. They just have a well, very good way of actually hiding it from the public. But there is anxiety, there is depression, right? So those two things are that something that actually can lead to the emotional isolation can lead to anxiety and depression. And then emotion, or sometimes it can be emotional emptiness, where they become stoic. They can be very much stoic in the sense that they don't want to really show their emotions at all. They want to just put all their strength into external things. When it comes to fitness, when it comes to my bank account, my money, my job, right? Anything that externally can show that, again, it goes back a little bit to the perfectionism, right? It's, what can I perfect to show that I actually have my life together? Even though internally there's internal turmoil, internally I cannot control what's going on, but I can actually control my outside world. I'm going to do my very best to put all my energy into my outside world and control it, and be able to show that I'm in control by showing that I have my bank account is good, I have my car, I have my house, my body, I maintain it, right? I maintain my physical health. I've maintained the way I dress. I maintain my grooming. I maintain all the other aspects external to my inside. I have I have control of that, and it shows. So therefore, nobody can question if I have any kind of wounding, because the outside looks so good, right? So that's another thing that we need to be very mindful of, because the external is not always the same as the internal. And sometimes that can be very tricky, especially in relationships. Like they say, do not judge the book by its cover, right? So what somebody looks like from the outside does not necessarily mean that that's how they look from the inside, right? From this perspective of mother wounding, the person might have their entire outside life very perfectly put together, but then until we get to know them, until we're in a relationship with them, that's when we start seeing all these internal pieces that are broken, right? That need to be actually addressed. They need to be addressed. So it's very important for us to understand that, in order for us to, that's how we end up also, unfortunately, in toxic relationships, right? So be mindful, just be mindful that the outside, what we see from the outside is not necessarily what's inside, right? That's just that. And that can lead to relationship dysfunction. That's the relationship dysfunction part of things, because those men who have this such a nice external, people sometimes wonder, why is it that they cannot actually maintain a decent relationship? It doesn't really make sense, because again, the outside is not necessarily matching the inside. So therefore we have to be mindful of that. And now I'm not saying that that's no one's fault. Well, it's not the person's fault, right? It's not the person's fault that whatever trauma happened to them in childhood happened and they developed that wound of, that wounding that is the primary driving force of them behaving in a certain way, right? And living their life in a certain way. That it's not their fault. But once we are aware of it, right, there should be no excuse not to go ahead and address it. That's just the biggest thing. And then the suppression, again, not suppressing it, not just telling ourselves, I'm fine. There's nothing going on with me. I'm fine. And sometimes people will tell us that, man, I think you might want to go see someone and talk to someone. And most of the time we take it we take offense to that. We take offense to that. That when somebody tells us, hey, I think you need help. And most of the time, I think that mindset, we need to be able to see how to put a more positive twist to that and see it as only people who really love you will tell you that you're on the wrong path. Only people who care enough will tell you that you are actually walking on a slippery slope, and eventually you're gonna fall down and hurt yourself, right? Only people who care will actually bring up those things to you, right? Only people who care will tell us. People who don't care, they're not gonna say anything. They will sit down and they will just watch us. They will watch the whole thing. They will get popcorn and sit down and watch it if they can, just to see us fall all the way down and be like, oh well, I already knew what was gonna happen, right? But again, to be able to have a change of perspective when people come to us and tell us, listen, I think I'm seeing A, B, C, D. It's a good idea if you go and see someone and talk to someone, and not suppressing it and not telling ourselves, no, I'm fine. I don't know what you're talking about. And sometimes it's a social conditioning, unfortunately, that pushes us to do that because of all the stigma, all the stereotypes, right? That tell us that, oh, well, if you go and see someone, you go in therapy, that means you're broken, right? Especially when it comes to men. That is a sign of weakness. Again, that's stoic. That I'll talk about the father wound, which is actually linked to that. Unfortunately, the father wound has its own things, right? So the stoicism, right? I don't want to show my feelings. I don't want to talk about my feelings. I'm just gonna look like a rock. I'm just gonna look like a stone, a statue, right? A stone statue. I got no feelings. I got no nothing. I don't smile. I don't laugh. I don't cry. You just don't need to know that I have feelings. And again, it goes all back to that, unfortunately. Mother wound can have that too. Mother wound can have some of that too. But unfortunately, it's not as strong because mother wound is not too much associated with negative masculinity or toxic masculinity. Mostly father wound is, right? So the mother wound is there to actually it's more like an emotional twist. Our emotions are twisted in different ways and they're like bottled up, right? That's on the man's side. The man is more likely to experience that and not want to express what they feel, how they feel, right? Because the whole point is when a child is nurtured properly by the mother is there to actually show the child how to regulate their emotions, how teach the child how to regulate those emotions, when to cry, when not to cry, how to express how you feel, what to express, right? And if it's give that child that safe environment to also express those feelings. That's the biggest thing. And when the child doesn't have that safety, doesn't have that methodology. They don't know, should I say, should I not say, when should I say, when I shouldn't say. They don't know. So therefore, their safety is to, I'd rather just not say nothing. Or if they express themselves, they get punished for it, right? You get that punishment or you get yelled at. Therefore, you teaching that child, well, them telling you their feelings in any shape or form is not safe. So they're bottling all that in. They don't want to say nothing. They suppress those emotions. They suppress those emotions by not want to say nothing. And when they become an adult, they become that stoic man that have hard time expressing their emotions. And it becomes intimacy issues eventually because they will not be able to be intimate with their spouse or their partner, right? Also, it becomes a problem of vulnerability because in order for you to be intimate with someone, you have to be vulnerable. You have to be vulnerable. And vulnerability are emotions. Being able to express your emotions, your feelings, right? So if those two are not there, therefore intimacy is very hard. When intimacy is not there, trust is very hard. So it's kind of like a cascade of events, a cascade of things that one mother wound can actually bring in a man. And that's one of the biggest reasons, again, we need to be able to just address it as soon as we see it. When we see it, doesn't matter. As soon as we pay attention that is there, address it. Addressing it, that's the biggest thing, being aware of it and taking the intentions to actually address it, to get help, right? And then when it comes to women is, most of it is just identity and worth. Most of it is identity and worth. The self-worth, there's a struggle there because in order for you to know who you are, you have to be able to model it. For girls, especially, modeling is very important to model it through their mother, right? This is before we're mothers, one day we're girls, before we become mothers. So, therefore, it's important for us to know how to become a girl in all its shapes or forms, right? All the shapes or forms. A girl. And not only that, to be able to model certain things through mom. How mom actually deals with her emotions, how mom expresses herself, how mom shows her identity, how mom actually shows up in everyday life, right? And that's what shows us how we need to model one day our own identity or how to actually know actually our own identity. We're not just modeling mom to clone mom's identity, but we modeling mom to get to know who we are too. So therefore, we can understand our own identity. And our self-worth, again, is something that comes over time by modeling, by affirmations. Mom has to be able to tell her daughter certain things. Hey, you're doing a great job at this. Hey, sometimes it's not even the validation. The validation is good when children are early, but it's just over the board validation that can turn into something else, right? We do not want to give children too much validation because then they do not understand that they should not always seek validation from outside to feel that they're worthy of something. But the worth, mostly, that to build that worth is to actually be able to see the actions of mom. Mom is doing certain things because mom loves me. So therefore, I am worthy of these things. I am worthy of being loved. I am worthy of being taken care of. I am worthy of being understood. I am worthy of being listened. I am worthy of mom consider my feelings before mom does certain things. I am worthy of mom being present for me, going to my little games at school, going to recitals, doing things with me, going to do my nails, right? Little things that girls can do with mom. That just to say, I am worthy of mom dropping everything that she has to do and spend time with me. because I'm worthy of being just mom's daughter. I am just worthy, right? So that's very important that little girls see that it's not just about again identity, it's about also the self-worth part. And then the caregiving is the way mom can express by doing things, by actions, right? It's mostly action oriented. The self worth is not built only on validation. Some validation is important, right? Some validation, but not extreme validation, not too much of it. But just to get to know that mom is taking care of me, mom does certain things. Now, don't get me wrong, both parents have to do their own parts, but mom, her part is again to be present. It's that presence, that emotional, physical, you know, all the different ways mom can be present. That's what matters. And then boundaries. Mom also is the one that teaches children boundaries. Dad has to teach boundaries too. But the way the two parents put usually boundaries are different. They're different. Mom usually has those boundaries when it comes to because dad might be there working all day long, right? And mom might be the one spending more time with children. Because in our society, the nurturing part of mom is to be able to also spend more time with children. Because in modern society, things kind of depend. It depends on cultures. It depends on work schedules. It depends on so many things. But when it comes to society in general, we see mom as the one that spends the most time with children, especially when they're young from 0 to 5, right? Dad usually is there, but dad doesn't have so much impact like that when it comes to um, teaching children certain things. But mom mostly does the work when it comes to that, right? And children too at that age, usually they run more to mom unless mom has all the things that like neglectful behavior toward the children, then the children usually do not go to that, do not go to mom, they would just go to that. So children also can see it when a parent is neglectful and they're not providing what they need from that parent. They're more likely to go to the parent that will provide it. They pay attention, right? And those boundaries, usually the boundaries that mom put in place, they're slightly different than the boundaries that dad puts in place. So those boundaries, usually mom is the one teaching the children certain boundaries, especially when it comes to things, little things like TV time or electronic time, how much food to have, what kind of healthy food to have or what unhealthy food, just a little bit of that unhealthy food and more of the healthier stuff, right? When it comes to certain things specifically, right, mom is the one that brings those boundaries really and apply them and implement them. But dad also does stuff, but at early age it's mostly mom. So if mom is not there to actually show children, that daughter, how to put boundaries in place and maintain them, right, and teaching that child that it's not okay for people to do certain things or to say certain things to that child will grow up eventually missing those that knowledge and goes into different relationships, platonic or work relationships or romantic relationship, not knowing how to put boundaries up and not how to know how to maintain them. That's just how it goes, unfortunately. And then the internalizing or the projection part of things, right? That the critical voice, especially if the mom is always criticizing, being able to just have a consistent tone, not just consistent tone, but a mindful tone. Because children can actually pay attention. Most children, you don't need to tell them I'm upset at you. They just have to hear your voice when you're upset. They can tell. They can tell. So knowing that it's mindful, our tone matters a lot to children, right? When we talk to them, the things that we don't think they pick up, they do pick it up. And especially if they are the children, those are sensitive children. Sensitive children feel certain things way more than we think, and they will be able to actually Internalize that. Internalize when mom is upset. This is how her tone is. When mom is upset, this is what she does. She yells, or this is what she does. She curses. This is what she does. She uses profanities. Either way, children can tell. So it's very important for us to pay attention to that. Not just paying attention to that, they internalize that. They think that it's their fault. Mom is doing what she's doing because it's my fault. Oh, my parents are not, they fighting because it's my fault. They internalize most of the things that go wrong around the house because they think that they have something to do with it. That if they prejudge that maybe you guys were fine before I was born, and all of a sudden now you guys are fighting all the time, or now you guys are just, or mom is just not happy anymore, or whatever the thing is, right? They have that internalizing factor that they have, that they can internalize things depending on how we actually talk to them, right? And then also girls, specifically young girls, they grew up, actually they carry over the way mom talks to dad to the relationships. If mom is the one that is always upset at dad, even without knowing the reason, the way we see, I've seen it myself, from my grandmother to my mother to me personally, I've seen it, right? I've seen exactly how it, from each of the three generations, I have seen the pattern. How my mother, my grandmother, my daughter, me and my daughter. And I have seen the pattern. Depending on how the mother treated the spouse, the daughter is more likely to also take the same um, characteristics, the same modeling, right? If the mother is the type that always yells, right? Because there's some underlying anger for one reason or another reason, right? The daughter is more likely to also take the same because she's modeling. She's modeling uh, how a relationship should be. She's modeling how a husband and wife should talk to each other. She's modeling how partners should talk to each other, interact verbally, right? That's a modeling thing, that she sees what's happening and she thinks that's how it should also be done. That's how, unfortunately, daughters can take toxic habits just by looking and seeing how mom talks to dad, how mom behaves around dad. And they can also take the same pattern and take it into their own relationships. So therefore, it's very important for us to understand that the way we talk to our spouses, partners, boyfriends, whatever, right? Our children see that too. And then sometimes they internalize it too. They might think that, oh, well, it might be my fault if mom is like that. Or it's mom's fault I'm like that once they're older. Once they're older, they're an adult, they might just go back in time and be like, oh, it's mom's fault. I never knew better. I never seen better. I saw that's what mom was doing, so I thought that's how it needed to be done. So therefore, we have to be mindful, very much so. Now, it's not necessarily being absent again, like I was saying. It's not necessarily being absent, physically absent. Physical absence definitely has something to do with it, but the emotions have a lot to do with it, have way more to do with it. Emotional unavailability, and emotional neglect. Emotional neglect, because those two are different. Emotional abuse too. Emotional neglect, emotional abuse, emotional unavailability. Those three are very important to be able to not put our children through that. Even if we feel certain way, it's better to bite our. What I do with my daughter especially, is sometimes there's so much I want to say. I just have to cling my teeth, bite my teeth, just cling, cling, cling. Don't open your mouth. Just don't say nothing. Just think it, don't say it. Just think it, don't say it. And then just calm down. Once I'm calm, then I will revisit that conversation and make sure that my tone is appropriate enough. It's not too friendly, but it's not also too abrasive. They need to know that what they did was wrong, but then they don't need to feel that they are being, emotionally abused and emotionally put down, right? So that's the biggest thing. And overbearing. So there's also overbearing mothers, critical mothers, overbearing mothers. A mother that always sees that their child is like a friend. Child is like a friend. So therefore, this is mostly emotional. That's mostly the emotional, I would say, neglect, right? Because there is no discipline. There is no disciplining the child. It's more like, we're friends, you do whatever you want to do. So it's more like a permissive parent type of parenting. You just do whatever you want to do, and then we'll talk about it if we need to talk about it. So that's just something that we need to be very much mindful of. The different type of parenting have something to do with it too. If we parent our child too harshly, it's not good. If we parent our child not much at all, it's not good. So we just have to find that balance, that very much in the middle. There are many parenting books out there. They talk way more about things than motherhood. They don't really talk about motherhood, but they just talk about tips that prevent us from actually putting our children through motherhood. But they don't really talk about motherhood like that. So it's important for us to just know at least that motherhood is actually something that exists. And motherhood doesn't just come on its own, it comes with many different things, right? So once we understand that, that's when actually helps us just prevent those things. Now, unfortunately, the first child that we have is experimental, right? So most children, the first child is actually the one that is the most likely to have, unfortunately, father wound or mother wound. Because again, when we have the very first child, we really don't know much what we're doing. And then eventually, with experience, we understand and we see that certain things we can kind of adjust and we can kind of fix certain things. Right. So the unfortunate side of it, that's the unfortunate side of it. But unless, we can read books about parenting, that's something, it's never too late to do something about it. That's all I'm saying. Right. It's never too late. But just to not even pay attention that it's something that exists is what's detrimental. So it's good that for us to just be able to at least address it. We know that it's there, let's address it. Just to be able to do that. Okay. All right. Again, I will say that every time, every day, every video, please, please, please take care of yourself. Okay. Make sure that you do your daily activities, daily routines, daily self-care, daily healthy things that you do. Whatever it is that you do that works for you, just keep up with that. All right, just little walks, yoga, meditation, sleep, healthy eating, right? Less stress as possible. And even I know daily we have to go through stress. That is unavoidable. But what we're doing to actually balance out that stress, that's what's important. Not keeping it always high. That's what's important. And by doing all those other self-care things that we do, we reduce that stress level. So less stress we have, more energy we'll have to also focus on our healing journey. So it's very important for us to just pay attention to our stress level on a daily basis, okay? And journaling and doing all the really good things that we've been doing and reflecting on how we feel on a daily basis, reflecting on what new things have come up, because sometimes we think we have healed one thing or we have passed from one thing and then something else happened and then we go backward, right? That's one of the reasons I always say healing is not linear. Healing is ups and downs, side to side, zigzags, right? You go on one, you come back two, you go on two, you come back three, right? So it's not really linear. It's not a straight line. It's not a straight line. It doesn't have a specific time. Everybody has their own timeline of how long it takes them to heal something, and also it's lifetime pretty much, it's lifetime because at different times in our lives different things happen. We can heal something and then something else new happens and then we got to heal that too. So it's not,